All right, hey, what's up, everyone? Smash University here with another episode of Coach's Corner. This time, a little different. We're here at CEO Sonix, just going ahead and winning that one. So we wanted to start off an episode with a special guest and really talk about Sonic. I think Sonic has a ton of history throughout Smash in general, right? And I think this is the very first really big win for Sonic in Smash Ultimate. And I mean, there's a ton of controversy, right? And we can start off with the history of Sonic as a character. I know you know a bunch of the history when it comes to, Sonic's first game being Brawl. The character was kind of bad in Brawl.
Not kind of, very bad. Yes,
very bad. But yeah, I'll toss it to Dan first, and we get into the history.
I'll be honest. I was a sleeper Sonic fan in Brawl. I thought it was secretly like bottom of high tier.
Bottom of high tier.
Yeah.
Okay.
Low tier was very common
I'll
opinion.
say this. Yeah, I don't think it was low tier. And
Okay.
even in low tier tournaments, he would jam a lot of them because he was not a low tier. So I will say that much.
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
I'll say that much.
Well, actually, first, congratulations.
Yes.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
So much. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Very hard tournament. You
Yeah.
played amazing.
Qualified for the
Crazy.
Panda Cup, the
Yes.
very first
Yeah,
Panda
very
Cup
first
qualifier,
stop.
first
Absolutely.
official Nintendo circuit event.
Yeah, North
Yeah.
America. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Thank you guys.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
Game 10, Grand Finals, the amount of just stamina in general it's going to take to go through that entire Grand was just absolutely insane. You played really well. And yeah, I guess we'll just get into the history now.
Yeah, man. So like you were talking about before, right? Sonic, traditionally known by many people as like a low tier back in Brawl.
Yeah.
Over time, some people kind of had some better ideas about the character. Start thinking maybe mid tier, where it may be something a little bit higher. But one of the big things about that character, especially with how SDI worked and DI was in the game, you literally on hit would get punished. Like you get hit someone with a fair, and then they could literally hold down and get out of your fair, and then punish you for it, right? There's a lot of things that way. Obviously, the character was known for a lot of the cancel that they had with coming from spin dash and spin charge, right?
54 game.
Yeah, man, it was ridiculous, right? If you do a whole forward right and you get all the hits there. Then of course when the Smash 4, where they removed that from the aerial spin charge, shield cancel, right? That was gone. I was super sad about that. But still the character was very, very strong in that iteration. And of course, fine tune, back throw was ridiculous, right? Remember the old school up smash? Smash 4 was pretty wild too, right? And then one of the things, of course, even though lost his shield cancel and aerial spin charge, you got it for the shield dash, right? Or spin dash, right? So that one was super, super strong in that game. It was very low risk, and so you were able to just condition opponents and be like, oh, I'm gonna do this intangible move, right? From spin dash, and then it's like, oh, well, psych, I'm gonna go shield and then punish you for it, right? So the character was really strong, and then in Ultimate, that was removed, right? So no longer any of the shield cancels on the spin, and for a lot of players, going into Ultimate, when a lot of Sonic mains, they instantly thought this character was not that good, right? They're just like, oh, dude, there's no way, blah blah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know for me personally, as a lab rat, it's always been I'm like, I don't think this is that bad. Yes, you can't play the same game, but it was kind of the rose tinted glasses, right? A lot of people saw that for the character, and you want to try to play from what you know. So you're going to start with your Smash 4 mindset, and over time people got an Ultimate mindset, and you see a lot of people just trailblazing the character, really optimizing the combo game, realizing how insane it is for that character, right? Especially with no air dodge, the fact that you have only one air dodge, right, until you get refreshed by a hit, those kind of things. Recognizing that homing attack is actually good in this iteration too. It's absolutely insane. It's an edge guard tool. All these things, and then obviously Sonic's you just been that person who really has been optimizing that character, right? Time and time again, I would hear from people, even Meister, I heard him, Leo, Spargo even said this too. They're yeah, everyone keeps talking about Ken, but Sonix is way better. A lot of them were seeing that way. They really spoke of you in high regard, right?
Yeah.
And even for me, the first time I saw you play, I'm like, dude, this guy knows. He knows, right? And it was incredible to see. But yeah, I mean, how do you? I mean, and this is for you and also for Tony, right? I know Tony was also coaching you throughout this tournament as well.
Right.
And it was, I was able, I had the chance to commentate a couple of your matches with Vicky. And it was funny because even they came over, right? Some of the production, and they were like, "Oh, well, you got a few matches, but Sonic, it may take some time." And you just, dude, you were just clapping people up. So, how did you feel? Kind of going into top 8 and going through all those matchups.
I felt pretty confident. Honestly, I started off a little nervous. because I woke up, I had a little bit of a stomach ache, and I was like, "Ooh, I hope this doesn't really affect my play." And I was kind of like playing friendlies. I played with pretty much every R.O.B main that was in the venue to prepare for WOD, and I was dropping games, and I was like, "Man, I don't feel good at all." Like I'm not feeling good about it.
Yeah.
So I talked to Tony, and I'm like, "Yo, Tony, I don't feel that good. Like I feel like my play is off." And he's like, "That doesn't matter. That's friendlies. This is different. Just get into that mindset. Focus on your notes. You got your notes. You'll be fine." And so coming up to the first set, WOD, as soon as I walked up on stage, the nerves just went away.
Yeah.
Because I was like, you know what? Like I've been here before. I've been in the Wi-Fi before. Even though it's Wi-Fi, it's like I've been in him like a lot and way too hard. So I'm like, I don't think it's gonna be that much different offline. So I was pretty confident, and then I played Tweak. I knew it was gonna be a stamina battle.
Yeah.
So game one, what I kind of did, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna use this game to kind of just test. I had a lot of notes written down for Tweak, especially since he's like one of my training partners on Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm gonna test these notes out and see if they work. If they work, perfect. Then I'm just gonna keep doing them, and I'm probably gonna make some small adjustments, mainly on the timing of my positions, and it worked out pretty well for me throughout the set.
What would you say the big difference was going into this tweak set from the last one? Because if I remember correctly, he actually 3-0'd you the first time you played him, and then you 3-0'd him here. So that's a pretty big turnaround on results.
For the Sephiroth match.
Yeah. The main thing was I actually practiced the matchup with him, obviously, and a couple of other Sephiroths, and I was kind of labbing like, how can I edge guard Sephiroth? Why am I losing? Am I dropping maybe springs where I shouldn't be dropping springs?
Yeah.
Should I just go back to ledge trapping him? Do I care if he takes a ledge? Should I hold center? These small but very important adjustments were the ones that kind of helped me just beat him today.
Yeah. No, and that makes sense too. I mean, one of the big things I've always felt like, when it comes to edge guarding, like, people need to edge guard more in Ultimate, but of course, like, Sonic is one of the best edge guarders in the game, right? And just kind of seeing where you were able, like, the spring placement, right? Making sure you're timing it in a way where you still have time to have your ledge trap if you miss. The usage of homing attack was stellar as well too. Something that people, it seems like a lot of times you'll see for Sonic mains, it's like on and off when they use homing attack as an edge guard tool. Like every now and then they'll use it for specific matchups, but like especially when you're able to burn resources, it seems like it's a strong tool regardless, right? Yeah. And it's been amazing to see that from you, that pressure, of course, to run off fairs and everything too. Even like sometimes just, you'll be at like roll like this and wherever it be, and you'll go for like a spin dash jump, and then you'll go and like snipe someone out of the air with like fair, right? Obviously without giving away all your like secrets or anything like that, but when you are trying to assess like characters like a Sephiroth and everything like that, like what are you looking for in terms of how you can approach that edge guarding?
I look for their frame data. So for Sephiroth's B, I looked up the frame data. Tony helped me a lot with that. And I was looking, can I react to this? Is this reactable? How should I go about edge guarding him? What's the risk reward? If I get hit, like, where does it put me? Is it an uncomfortable position for me? If the answer is yes, then I probably won't go for it unless I really have like a read. Mm-hmm. Is it a favorable position for me? Then if the answer is yes, then I'll go for it.
Win-win, right?
Yeah, win-win. And also, but obviously the biggest thing is being able to react to it, which against Tweak, for example, Sephiroth, Sonic is always able to react to the up B, like the animation, and hold me attack it.
Right.
Guaranteed.
Yep.
So I was just waiting for it every time. Or I would just like drop a spring wherever I would think it was gonna up B towards and it would clank, and then I would drop like one spring. If he tagged, then I would just go back to ledge trapping and holding center.
Nice. And it's like, yeah, it was cool to see, like, even when you went up against, I believe it was ZD, right? You had played him as well, and then had a chance to commentate that, and there was one point where he tried to get an early stock on you, and he was like at early, like low percent, and the moment he whiffed his nair, I was like, oh, you're done, dude. I saw you run off, and you went for like, I loved it because you did the B reverse homing attack, right?
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, like that one does like less knockback, right? And of course, when you're a fast faller, you're just gonna tank, right? It's almost like a semi spike, right?
Exactly.
As it were, and it was crazy because I think you got him at like 10% or something like that, and then he just lost like the sock, and it was crazy. But yeah, it's awesome to see that you're actually looking at like, okay, what are these tools they have, and like, is it reactable based on the frame data, right? But I think there's not enough people doing that too. Like, can I react in this situation, you know, with this tool where I can just react here, and then like we're not fair, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of those are the key differences on how you can have effective edge guarding instead of this like huge like coin flip. I'm just gonna do this, right? So that's crazy. I like that. I love that here.
Thank you. Yeah, it was kind of more of a matter of, can I react to this, or rather, am I positioned correctly to punish this? Because I feel like that's a really huge thing. Against Toast, for example, I did a lot of run-off forward airs because I knew he was gonna up B. Like in that position, he either went lower, and then maybe snapped the ledge, but he had the risk of messing up his recovery and SDing, kind of like what we saw against his set against Tweak, which he SD'd a lot. Yeah, so I was like, he's gonna be, he has to be from this position, so I'm just gonna go for it. And then he's gonna be in an even less favorable position, and I'm just gonna keep dropping the springs, keep throwing out the hitboxes, not where he's at, but where he wants to be.
Right. And I love just hearing the level of preparation too, because even in terms of just like covering this area where this character, I mean, obviously Young Link, a character with very limited recovery options, right? Probably the biggest weakness of the character. Character on stage, crazy frame data, insane range, right? Like probably, I mean, almost Sheik-esque needles like options with the neutral B, right? So you can kind of operate even outside of the range of, you know, a Sephiroth fair and something like that, right? So incredible neutral, right? And I mean, just dissecting the off stage and making sure you really, you know, capitalize off of that. When I heard you got upsetted by Toast, I was so surprised. It like, I mean, because even we saw, you know, Wrath versus Toast at like, I mean, this was far back, right? But like homing attack was such a good option against Young Link, right? So I mean, really good stuff. Even going into loser bracket, that was a reverse 3-0 as well. So I mean, keeping your composure, and you know, even some of your matchups are going to be slower ones too. So it was a huge stamina battle for you, right? So I mean, coming through losers, game 10 grand finals. So incredible stuff there. And I want to hear your guys' thoughts on, I guess, the meta in terms of preparation for tournaments, right? I honestly feel like grand finals, those were the two most prepared players in the building. The two players that have put the most time into like this specific tournament, or as of recent, you and Riddle's extremely hardworking players, and it goes to show because like you guys also had coaches for this tournament, right? Like Riddle's obviously having last, and then you had Tony working for you like as a coach, right? So that I think was really cool to see. And I mean, even just like hearing the way you guys are breaking down the preparation too, it's like very specific. You know, what, like, can you react to this situation? Is it a preemptive edge guard, or is it like you're gonna go into this position, react to X move, right, and stuff like that? So that's the kind of stuff that I really like to see. And I mean, we haven't really, in my opinion, we haven't seen this in Smash in general. You know, cranking it back down, you know, back in time in Brawl and Smash 4, because what was on the line wasn't the value of winning is way larger in Ultimate, right? Like in terms of just like sponsorships, teams, content, or having the ability to pivot into content and yada yada, right? Like there's more resources to like essentially fight over in Ultimate rather than Smash 4 and Brawl. And that really excites me because I think we can see this game get pushed really far, right? And I mean, how do you guys feel? Like, do you guys feel like some players might be able to kind of start, like, still get away with maybe not putting as much work as someone like Sonix or Riddles, maybe not having that coach? Like, where do you think, like, do you think there will eventually be a gap where it's to the point where, like, you're going to need a coach eventually if you start reaching that top level of play and have that level of preparation? Start with you, Tony.
Well, first thing I want to point out is, actually it's more of a question, like, what did you get at last year's CEO in December?
I got 9th.
Was it 9th? Okay.
I was 9th.
Yeah. So going from a qualifying set into this, do you feel like your play has changed in the last, what is it, 7 months?
Massively, yeah.
Yeah. So my first question, relating to Charles's question, is what would you say that you did for preparation now that you didn't do at that time?
At the time, I actually didn't prepare at all. Like, I was like, I'm going to play my game, and people are going to have to try and deal with it. But now not only am I playing my game and I've worked on improving my game, but I've also worked on breaking down other people's games,
Right.
game plans, and how to deal with them, and also how to deal with the counterpick to my game plan, the counterplay. Sorry. So for example, if I'm doing something, let's say I'm spin dashing a lot, right, and my opponent is getting hit by it, and they adapt to it, and they're like, okay, they start hitting me, for example, dash attacking me in the corner, not letting me spin dash or just getting in my face a lot, and covering where I'm gonna be after spinning. I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm not gonna spin anymore, and I have prepared a playstyle that does not rely on spin dash. So if spin dash doesn't work, then it's like, okay, I know what to do.
Right.
And once you get comfortable with that playstyle, I'm gonna switch back to spinning.
Right.
And then I keep them guessing. That's like the biggest thing. Besides that, I look at frame data now. Back in the day, I kind of was like, okay, is this punishable? Yes, no, that's it.
Right.
And if it's not punishable, I would just reset. But nowadays, I can see and be like, okay, this is not punishable, but generally, this character's player base likes mashing this option after this safe option. And if they mash, even if the first option's safe, the second one is gonna come out later, so you have enough time to punish the start of that option.
Right.
And last but not least, I've worked on my mentality a lot, because back then I was like, I need to win, or everybody's gonna say that I'm carried by Sonic,
Right,
or
right.
you know that it was Wi-Fi and everything. So I was like, I was playing for other people, not for myself.
Nice. And yeah, that's another thing to kind of bring up too. I mean, the crowd was definitely kind of
Riddle's favored.
They're definitely being assholes. You know, people were booing and stuff like that, right? So I mean, I feel like you probably deal with that a lot. Just even on Wi-Fi tournaments, like just if you ever look at chat or whatever,
Yeah.
and even IRL, like how do you deal with that? Because I feel like there's certain characters where they're gonna deal with that, right? Like Sonic or Min. Like I feel like it's just generally slower pacing characters, right? I've
Yeah.
even seen like Olimar get a lot of hate in the very beginning of Ultimate, right? When
Yeah.
Olimar was super popular and stuff like that. So I'm assuming that also kind of ties in with like your mentality thing too, right?
Definitely, yeah. How do I deal with it? I kind of just ignore it, and focus on what matters, which is the gameplay
Right.
and what I worked on. That being said, it does get to me sometimes. Like today, for example, when I did against Riddle, that whole second set, for the most part, I was thinking about the crowd.
Right.
There were instances in which I would like switch between focusing on the game and then focusing on the crowd, and it was distracting me a little bit. But
Yeah.
for games 4 and 5, I managed to get my act together and was like, okay, you know what? Like, I need to just go back. I took some deep breaths, which helped me get my focus back in the game, and that's why I was able to, take it home and prepare for the victory.
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, I think that's something, especially a lot of times some like newer players who are kind of rising stars, a lot of them they have that trouble, right? And it may not be the same like dealing with kind of like the crowd, like not like Sonic or whatever it may be, right? But a lot of people fall to the moment, right? And even when I was like me personally, when I was watching, I was cheering for you, and I see him like, let's see, like, can you take on the moment, right? And it was great to see that you were able to compose yourself, because a lot of times people just get lost. I mean, interestingly enough, I would even say when it comes to Riddles as well, he's like one of the people too who kind of like would fall under the moment like a lot, right? And he's been steadily getting better at it, but he still has his kind of struggles there. So it was awesome to see that how both of you kind of had that trajectory where you're like moving up, and it's like, how do I deal with that mental? Like, it's only a matter of time. Like, I've heard, Tweak speak well of your play, right? I've heard all these players all the time, Sonics, more and more people recognizing like your skill.
Right.
And it's great to see that you were able to be like, all right, I'm gonna tune these people out, get back into it, because I think sometimes people think that like, oh, players are just stone cold and they just don't think about that at all. It's like, no, you do think about it.
Yeah.
Like, there's still that anxiety there, but the idea is that you've learned now tools to overcome it versus not having it. There's never an absence of that. It's always like, how do you overcome that? So
Yeah.
I think that's incredible that you were able to do that. And again, to what you both were talking about in terms of like preparation, right? Goes a long way, so you can take on that opportunity.
Yeah.
And I want to go ahead and point out to the viewers a couple things. First, I'll ask Sonix a question real quick.
Yeah.
So, how many of the players did you run into today who you had a game plan before you even got to Florida? Like, not when you saw your bracket path, just like people you said, well, I'm going to Florida for CEO. I know these players are there.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have like exact positions, have their habits, have game plans for how I'm going to react to their habits. Like, how many players did you have that for you ready in the top 8?
All of them except Riddles.
Okay.
Riddles was the only player I didn't really prepare for. Because in my mind, I'm like, I didn't think this would happen. And 2, I was like, my character beats his character, so I don't really need to learn much. And I know he's going to approach. But funny enough, Riddles asked me for advice against Ken at Battle of BC. And of the advice I gave him that day, he did not apply any of it. But today,
today,
he's like, oh, that's what you do against Ken? Sonix.
he did everything. Everything I told him, and I'm proud of him. Riddles, like, we're cool with each other. We'll talk here and there. We'll play a lot. So I'm very proud of his growth and his ability to kind of just like apply these things that quickly.
Yeah.
Hopefully he beats Ken and Runback, or whoever wins, I'm fine with, because Sonic brother.
Absolutely.
So the second thing I want to point out to our viewers is that it's important to pay attention to who you allow to give you criticism, to give you things that might hurt you, because hurtful words from a friend can be very helpful for you. It can really tell you something that you need to focus on for your personal self-growth. But the problem is if you just take every single bit of criticism, you're just going to end up with a crowd that is just jeering at you, and then you're going to just take too much of it to heart. Yeah. So it's important to find that balance. Find those people you can trust. Actually consciously ask, who can I trust to really help me become the person I want to be, help me do the things I want to do, people I can grow with. And actually ask yourself who those people are, find them, keep them. Those people are invaluable. Those are the people who you can have lifelong relationships with, and it can be mutually beneficial. So you don't want to ignore everyone, or else you will find yourself in a position where you are actually ignoring everyone, and then you can't grow as a person, because you'll always be limited to your ability to perceive yourself. And so your self-awareness is always going to be your personal growth limit. And so too much and you're going to hurt yourself, because you'll be crippled by all of the criticism. If you don't take it enough, then you're always going to limit yourself. So finding that balance is key for growing as a player and also as a person, I would say.
Definitely.
Yeah, another thing, like, I totally got sidetracked, but one of the questions I asked Tony earlier, and even you, Sonix, how important do you think having a coach, or at least having that level of preparation, will be, like 1 to 2 years down the line in Ultimate's future? I feel like a lot of we're seeing more coaching as of lately in terms of the top level scene, and I think we're starting to see the fruition of the coaching and that level of preparation, currently in this meta game. So, I mean, what do you guys think? Because I know you're actively coaching players, you're actively playing. I used to coach, so I'm still watching from the sidelines, but I'm doing other stuff now. So I don't really I'll still watch a lot of the games, also study a lot of games, but I don't actutively coach any players. And I think Bam is also in that same boat where I used to do a bunch of coaching and stuff. And but yeah, now you guys are more in that scene, right? And how impactful and how important do you feel like it's going to be, 1 year, 2 years down the line?
I feel like it's going to be very important, because, like you said yourself, a lot of players are getting coached now, and I'm a firm believer that no matter how good you are at whatever you do, you need a coach.
Okay.
You can be the best, but you still need a coach, because outsiders see things that you may not.
A different perspective.
Exactly,
right?
a different perspective. And it's always important to have that new info to work on, and always stay at the top of your game, right? Especially with how competitive this game has become as of late. Post-quarantine, this game has become so competitive. The meta has shifted, to many both strong characters, strong play styles. People aren't afraid to time you out, not just the Sonic mains. You know, you can see that like Tweak himself plays a pretty defensive Diddy Kong, Sephiroth.
Right.
And a bunch of other players are also quite defensive.
Japanese meta, right?
Japanese meta, yeah, you know. So like everybody wants to win, and everybody's learning the game at a very, very fast pace. So I think it'll be very important to be able to like break down your opponents and have someone that tells you, hey, have you thought about doing this instead of this in this situation? And you sitting down with them or testing out those options for yourself and being like, okay, yeah, this works. Okay, this doesn't work. How about this instead? And also, because it's important that you also do things for yourself. Like you can't just leave it up to your coach completely. Right. And if you both are working towards something like an end goal, it's good that you also contribute to it. Whether it be, you know, labbing yourself, labbing combos, different setups, different mix-ups, and seeing which one works, which one has the higher success rate, and sticking with those.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Tony?
So, I don't think that it's currently necessary for sure. Like at the very least, we know. I believe VOD exactly said he's never been coached in his life.
Yeah.
So he said he doesn't even know what that would do for him. He just knows that people have mid-set coached against him, and that he really enjoyed curb stomping them after they got the mid-set coaching. So I believe my contribution to that conversation was that coaching that isn't tailored for the person listening to it, who is hearing it, like if you can't communicate it well, it doesn't matter what the ideas that they're giving you are. Like that's just, it's not going to be absorbed. It's going to take their mind out of the game. It's generally not good to be thinking while you are playing in the first place. Like you're supposed to have your game plan set and practiced so that you don't have to think about it. So that you're not thinking of, oh, well, how do I input forward tilt? I hold toward the opponent, press the A button. Like, was that a thought that once came up in your mind this tournament?
Absolutely not.
No. The idea is that you refine ideas, and obviously Sonix, as we saw, was increasingly complex on what he's refining. But how many actions or decisions would you say where you would just press them without even thinking about it, where you would just see something and then you would instantly respond to it? Like how many positions down would you say that goes right now?
Ooh, about 90% of those
Okay.
positions.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the idea is, it's not that you aren't supposed to think, it's that there's a time and a place for everything. You are supposed to think between the sets, and the necessity where this comes from, for the future possibly, it's more the matter that having two people working together is probably going to give you better benefits than if you are just working by yourself. It's not that you can't work better, because obviously two people aren't always better than one. However, the generally if you take the same person, have them work by themselves, and then have them work with someone who is capable of that teamwork, capable of communicating with them, you're always going to get a better result.
Yeah.
And even if it reduces that one person's ability by themselves, if you have two people, they only have to add 20% to outweigh that diminishment. So I think something that people will experience is they will receive incorrect instruction, incorrect communication, things like that. And what happens is, if you receive it incorrectly, you're going to be focusing on the wrong things. And if you were on a productive track before, then now that's put you off track. Now, sometimes you won't see any changes at all because you receive incorrect adjustment, but you're already doing something wrong. So you go from something wrong to something wrong, and nothing really changes. So no matter what, though, the limit is always going to be you, the effort you put in, the thought. Thinking about the game is another form of practicing, but you have to have balance with everything. Sonix, would you say that you do more playing or more like thinking VOD analysis?
If you asked me the same question at MomoCon, I would have said more playing, but lately, specifically for this particular tournament, I focused on doing a lot more VOD review and analysis than playing.
And my follow-up question to that is, do you think that if you had just started off doing a lot of VOD review, that it would have helped you improve as fast?
Probably not. Probably not, because I would have had to get the muscle memory down before I could even apply the things that I would be analyzing.
That's a very good point. And I actually I actually get a good number of like lessons on Metafy, and some of the players are like clearly like a little newer, and I have to explain like very base concepts, and those and sometimes they'll get a little confused, and it's like, man, you can't understand what I'm saying. And this is like not even trying to be elitist or anything, but it's like I'm trying to explain things, but you can't comprehend them because you don't have enough experience in the game, right?
So you can't build without a foundation.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And I think there is a specific threshold where you want to at least get enough experience in the game and and the thing is, when you get coaching, you're getting a very experienced person's perspective, right? But you can get unexperienced people's perspective while you're learning the game, and you can just get a bunch of those perspectives with the people you play with in general, right? And then you can kind of collect those together, get your own perspective going, and I think that part is really, really valuable. And I like even just you guys kind of talking about that other stuff too, because from my experience as coaching, specifically with Void and Tweak, I love coaching top level because it's like unexplored territory, right? Like the meta is like not there, you don't know what's going to happen, and you're trying to develop it, right? When I coach like lower, mid, or high level, it's like, oh well, you need to be doing this, and I like this is already solved. I'm just giving you like the guide map, right? But I think when it comes to top level coaching with top level players, you need to have like some kind of synergy with the coach. I don't think every coach just works with every player. You have to have like similar-ish viewpoints of the game, and then it feels like you're learning and expanding on the current metagame together, where the coach is being the guide to the top level player and just giving like new nuances and new perspectives. And I feel like you want to learn in similar ways too, you know what I mean, as to your coach, and it matches up. And when that synergizes, I feel like that's when the player, you're essentially trying to optimize player growth as fast as possible, because everyone's growing, right? Like no one's getting worse at the game. Like it's like, oh, okay, like Leo goes up this much, and then Spark goes up this much, or Tweak's coming up here, and then like everyone's like continuously growing. But what you're trying to do as a player is you want to make your growth rate like faster, so if someone's ahead of you, you're like eventually going to catch up to them, right?
Exactly.
So I think when you match up with a coach that learns the game and kind of thinks of the game in a similar way, you guys can dissect things together, and then you just increase that growth rate, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I'm gonna tell you guys this story, right? And I think for me, this is like extremely important in terms of like how people grow, right? Because to the earlier points that you were making, like both you, Sonix and Tony, it's like ultimately when you're trying to become the best you possibly can be, right? There's a lot of big things, like there's like a number one thing, right? So anyways, I'll go into the story. So one day, it was actually my first time at the Red Bull HQ. It was my first day on the job, right? And I had to go inside, and I went by the APC, right? It's the Athletic Performance Center. And so you have all the athletes come in and do like, they do all this like cool stuff, right? They're testing their like O2s, right? They're doing stuff for like, probably like hand-eye coordination, right? They have them on like, like they have them on the like treadmills and stuff like that too, just like making sure that like they're optimizing everything, right? It's like the real deal. It's like crazy, right? This insane facility just to make sure that everyone can be the optimal performance, right? Even our gamers and stuff use it too, right? So I walk by them, I'm like, oh, this looks pretty cool. And I see some girl, she's just like standing there just chilling, and I was like, oh, hey, like, she's like, oh, how are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm great. She's like, oh, good to meet you. I'm like, oh, good to meet you too. Like, what are you doing here? She's like, oh, just relaxing right now. I'm like, oh, that's great. And she's like, how about you? I'm like, oh, it's my first day, right? And I'm just like excited to be here. She's like, oh, well, welcome to Red Bull. I hope you enjoy it and have a good time. I'm like, thanks, you too. So we like talked a little bit more, and then afterwards I dipped, right? Because I had to follow my someone called me, right? So I went ahead, continue on, went into a meeting. Then I got pulled into a major meeting. They're like, hey, this usually doesn't really happen, but we got you in. There's going to be a big meeting, and it's going to be essentially a bunch of the athletes are going to come in, and they're going to talk to everyone kind of about how they grow and how they get to the next level, right? And they're like talking about how the greats you are, and some of them, like, these are like Olympians, these guys are like champions, blah 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 blah, right? So of course I'm sitting down I'm chilling, and I see all these people walk in, and I look in the room, and I see like there's a lot of people in the room that are just like shocked and are excited, right? Because they're like can't wait to talk to these athletes, right? Of ours, and like see like just hear about the cool stuff they do. And then of course, that girl walks in, right? And it ends up being Jill Kittner, right? And see, like for those who follow like any of this, like she is essentially like godlike when it comes to like mountain bike, like period. Like she's like extremely like just like freaking like legend, right? She's won like a ton of women championships. She's gotten medals. She's just like insane. And so she comes down. She's like sits down and she just starts like talking about like what she does, right? And someone asks her like, "Oh, how do you get to like how did you reach your goals, and do you feel like there's any like really crazy insane goal that you have that you want to reach next? Like what's the next one that you're looking forward to?" And she like pauses for a bit. She thinks about it, and she's like, I don't really have any like I don't have any in that way, right? I just know that like I see myself as the best, right? And that's it. So I'm just gonna continue to do what it is to be the best. And some people were like, kind of like laughing because they're like, damn, that's kind of crazy, right? Like you don't have this goal of hitting this target or whatever, right? And more for her, it was like the identity of being the best, right? Or like just striving for that. And she said one thing that I will always remember, and she's saying like, this is what I do, right? So she breaks out this huge notebook, has all these tons of notes and data. Her PRs like go day in and day out. All these things that she does to make sure that she becomes like the best in the world. And then she says this. She's like, and if you are trying to be the best, there is no world in which you become the best alone. At a certain point, there's only so much bandwidth you have. There's only so much that you can do with your own perspective and with all your studies until you need a team. If you do not have a team, you will never get close to being the best in the world. Period. You have to have people behind you, and that goes for any discipline. Doesn't matter what it is, right? And so to me, that always really resonated with me, right? Because that's something I always like believed, but just kind of hearing it from again as a recurring theme from some of my business mentors, from from people like her, where like these Olympians, right? These champions, it just really cements the idea is that you have to, if you're trying to get to the next level, you can't do it alone. And so I think it's great kind of us talking about this in terms of proper appropriate coaching, right? Working with a team, working with a community to help build you so you can grow and elevate yourself. And the fact that you recognize that off the bat, Sonix, and you were pursuing that and looking for that, and having someone there like Tony to help you grow and elevate in terms of that, and break down opponents, like it's so vital. So I just wanted to point that out because I think that's something incredible that a lot of people still are sometimes too prideful about in certain ways, and they think that, oh, I can do it themselves. Like, no, dude, literally no one in the world, like all the tops that you see in the world and everything like that, it's people. Like, that doesn't mean that your work is slacking, because you do the best that you possibly can as a person, but there's only so much a single person has in terms of bandwidth, in terms of that what you can do. And at the end of the day, no matter what, you're not going to have a perspective as another person, which is always going to be valuable. So just wanted to say that.
I think that there's a certain level of personal journey a lot of people have to go through to reach that point where they're willing
Right.
to. I'd say that there's two parts to it. The first is generally when people originally start looking for assistance, actually get that help. But then in my experience, a lot of people want to actually go out and try it on their own once they're on those rails, see how they go. And then eventually they reach the point where they realize, you know what? Someone else helping me does not take away from my accomplishments. It's not a matter of I'm not getting this done. It's a matter of I can be more of myself. I can do more of myself with other people's help, because we make each other better. So I think that a common misconception that it's 1+1. It's not. It's not like that. It's a matter of when you work together, you both do your best.
Yep. No, absolutely. And I agree with what you said too, where it is something where it takes time to get there. You don't get there automatically, right? And there is a certain level that you kind of have to get to, in my eyes, until you are like coachable per se, right? Or to your point where you were able to take other information from others and learn and apply it and become a better being, right? Because you need to also have your own identity, as it were, too, right? And you also need to understand the nuance. Otherwise, you're just not. All of it's going to be for naught. That, right? You can't have too many cooks in the kitchen in that way, right? It has to be. You have to get to a certain point where you can do what you need to do on your own, and then it's like then it comes to working with someone and interacting and talking and having those conversations, and then you can build from there.
And I would also like to point out for viewers, you don't have to go all the way to MKLeo when you're first starting to get some help. So just looking up tutorial videos, actually getting down the basics of your character, getting that, and then when you really feel like you have mastered everything that you have on your plate, you can even usually just reach out to some of the more efficient options, like reaching out to your local community leaders, the more experienced players that you run into, ask them questions. Don't ask them general questions like, oh, what should I do? Specific questions like, oh, hey, I did this and it's not working out for me. Do you have any ideas why? Things like that. So try and have practical applications in mind and work your way up. Like I said, you don't have to start with MKLeo. You can usually go ahead and hit up the person winning your locals and ask them for advice. Most people in the community are willing to help out. And as Charles said, there's always something like Modify, and you can start on something fairly inexpensive there. And
Yep.
speaking of Minify, I believe Sonix is also on Minify. If anyone
There
is
you go.
Yeah.
looking for his help.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank
So I
you.
mean, speaking of Sonics, man, let's start talking about Sonic, bro. Let's talk about this character. Let's break it down because,
Get it.
yeah, it's again. I know we talked about it a little bit earlier on, but this character is strong, man. Character is hella strong, and I think a lot of people just did not recognize that for quite some time. And also, too, I think there's certain aspects of the character that people didn't recognize, like how powerful they are, right? I know we talked a little bit about edge guarding. Obviously, we talked a little bit about the like combo game and stuff too. But like Sonic, I would love to hear from you, just like kind of like first and foremost, like how strong do you think Sonic is overall, and what are the kind of the key things that you feel that whether it's the Sonic community at large, whether it's just our general Smash community, like that people aren't realizing, like that are like really these pivotal tools of this character as to why the character has been able to find so much success, especially in your hands.
I think Sonic is a top 5 character, possibly contender for best character in the game. And I believe that what makes the character so strong is the fact that there's no cookie cutter counterplay to anything he does. Because there's counterplay to the counterplay. And that goes for pretty much every aspect of his play. And some people may say, oh, well, that goes for pretty much the entirety of the cast, at high level, high slash top level. And while it is partially true, the risk reward in Sonic's options is really good. And unless the Sonic players deliberately chooses to use the poorer options, then there should be no reason for Sonic to be put in like a really bad spot. And I think what makes this character so strong, besides that, is his mobility, of course. I know people from day one, they saw that spin dash shield cancel was gone when playing the demo, and they were like, "Man, Sonic sucks now. Sonic is nerfed. Let's go," or "That sucks." You know, there was two sides of the same coin. But personally, as soon as I heard the news, I was like, "Hmm, interesting." And I started playing around Smash 4 with no spin dash shield cancel. I was like, "Let me see what it's gonna be like." So I started every time I would play people, like anybody in Smash 4, even in local tournaments. I tried not to cancel spin dash to kind of get used to that feeling of, okay, if you spin, you're gonna have to let it go. And that's when canceling it with downer came in. I was like, wait, I can actually cancel it with downer still. So then when the game came out, I was just, he can still cancel it, just not the same way, not as broken, but it's still pretty decent. Um, and that, all that, spin dash being the great move it is, combined with Sonic's mobility, brings me on to the next point, which is his advantage state. Sonic's advantage state is insane. Insane. I mean, because if you really break it down, you have the fastest character in the game with unreactable burst options that combo into pretty much every move, and kill moves that if you don't see him coming, you might die as early as 100%. So I think that's what makes Sonic so great. And I think there's something that people aren't really abusing when it comes to Sonic's strengths, and that's his ability to hold center stage and force people to try to fight out of center stage while making use of his mobility. Because whenever I watch Sonic players, I've been watching a lot of Sonic VODs lately on stream. Like I'll stream and I'll just review any top Sonic set, and I'll see that they don't really take advantage of Sonic's stage control, like Sonic's ability to hold center stage. They will put you at the edge. They might try to edge guard you, like they might drop a spring here and there, but if it misses, then that's it. They're like, okay, back to square one. Let me try and win neutral again, and they completely give up stage control, and then they go back to the ledge and spin dash, which I don't blame him. It's something that I was guilty of myself not too long ago, and I really think that's what kind of helped me elevate my level of play.
Fighting for center
Yeah.
stage rather than going to ledge.
Yeah,
Because I think Sonic was actually one of the few characters in the game, and this is like what kind of annoyed me about his character design in general, but it's like he's one of the few characters that can go into the corner, and it's technically not that bad for you, right? Because at a certain point, you can't go. I think approaching spin dash in general is very difficult, and then if you can't cross it up, I think that's like some of the advantages you have of being in the corner, right? Like they can't land behind you to do anything, so they can't like do this jump arc over and like kind of like, oh well, you got to rip something because I'm eventually going to be behind you, right? So I think that was I'll say like more of the cookie cutter way to play Sonic, right? Where it's just like, okay, I have the lead, I run to the corner, right? I keep dashing back, you come safe, then I go into the corner, I spin dash, rinse repeat, right? I spin dash, you try to catch me, am I going to homing attack 50-50 you or not? Okay, I didn't, I land for free, or if I have platforms, I have up B mix-ups, right? But now I feel the meta for Sonic, or at least the way you play Sonic, is very different from that. Like you will still do that from time to time in specific situations, but yeah, I feel like you fight for center stage more. We see like more of these tight quarters abuse of dash and walk. Sonic obviously has one of the best dashes, one of the best walks, right? I think realistically his only weakness is how light he is, but it gets compensated with his hurt box shifting. So another thing people don't talk about is Sonic's hurt box shifting is absolutely insane. Whenever you go charge into a ball, you're literally turning into a tiny ball, right? So it's like it's hard to hit. And then obviously like on shield, spin dash, spin charge. There's a mix up of like you kind of don't know when Sonic's charging in the ball, you don't know if he's going for the spin dash or spin charge. So that's another 50-50. It's just interesting to me because this character also pumps out a lot of damage. I think that's something you particularly work on the most with Sonic. No other Sonic's damage output is near close to your Sonic's damage output. So you will hit someone with like a hard nair at 0, or like you have the sour nair setups on ledge traps that lead into back air. Stuff like that I think is very important to have, and you set up those situations more because you don't always give up stage control and go to the corner and charge spin dash. You will fight that mid range where Sonic is technically still really good because you also just have dash stack. Like his dash stack, you don't get a lot of return out of it, but like especially when you compare it to spin dash and spin charge, the return of it is so high, right? Which is another reason why I feel like a lot of people kind of had zero suit high up in the beginning of the game because especially with how Japan plays zero suit, it's like you play timeout zero suit a lot of the times or circle camping zero suit, but Sonic can, and this is actually something that Tweak mentioned to me, and I think it makes a lot of sense, or at least the way Tweak thinks. So Tweak thinks Sonic is top 5, and whenever we would used to argue about like Zero Suit versus Sonic, which character is better, Tweak would always say, well, Sonic is camping you out and timing you out, but he also does like he hurts when he hits you. Like Zero Suit doesn't like hurt when she hits you as much as Sonic does, right? Sonic hits a stray spin dash that could be 30 damage. Oh, a platform extension, 50 damage. You know what I mean? And stuff like that. Or even like comboing off of reverse homing attack after the spin dash. Sometimes you can combo it if you reverse it. Like this character has so much mobility, and the return I think is the crazy thing that I didn't really think too much about because I didn't think Sonic was trash. I thought Sonic was like a highish tier, but now he's more so kind of creeping up into my top 5 area just because of the direction of the game and just the sheer return this character has. I think the return is what really sets this character apart to me. I've known that this character's neutral is like insane, one of the best neutrals in the game, but then now kind of taking into account the return and the advantage state and the way it can snowball if you just don't give up stage control is pretty amazing. And like that's to me, that's what I've really seen the Sonic meta evolve post quarantine, right? Because we kind of saw a huge spike in the meta post quarantine because everyone was grinding on Wi-Fi, but it was still Wi-Fi. And then like right when offline came back, it was everyone kind of like trying to rush and like, okay, what did I learn from Wi-Fi? I learned all this stuff. I learned all this stuff. Now, how much of this shit is actually good online or offline, or how much of it was like me abusing Wi-Fi? That was all the top players that played during Wi-Fi. That's what you were trying to do, right? Like, okay, what stuff do I keep, and what stuff was just Wi-Fi, me just doing it for the Wi-Fi dub or whatever, right? Because there's certain situations where it's unreactable on Wi-Fi, and then there's other situations that are if you put it offline, it's like, okay, well, that's not as good on offline because they can react and stuff, right? So I think you did a really good job, and you're a Wi-Fi fiend too. So like I think you did a really good job transferring a lot of that stuff because Wi-Fi, especially Wi-Fi Sonic, I think a lot of people just kind of have like a lot of hate towards it, right? Because you can kind of set up situations on Wi-Fi particularly where it's even harder to deal with Sonic, right? So I think you did a really good job of kind of ignoring the hate and just being like, all right, well, what I learned from Wi-Fi and how can I use it and apply it to offline, and it's been working fantastic.
Yeah, it's been pretty incredible to see that from you, like Sonix, and like to Charles' point too. Like one of the great things, well, to everyone's point, honestly, like, that you've been focused on maintaining center stage, right? And really recognizing that, yeah, Sonic is a character that can fight outside of the corner, right? It's kind of funny because it reminds me of like, when you think of Street Fighter, kind of like Guile or like Blanca, right? Even Blanca's a character too, where you can be in the corner and you can chill there, and it's like okay, because you can get out with like EX ball or just like your sheer speed, right? Sonic can do that, but like it better when you're able to actually corner and do like the pressure and have those mix-ups. Then it's like a whole different game. And it's one of the big things is the return you're seeing, the damage output of Sonic, and a lot of people just weren't at that point. They weren't doing it right, and if anyone was kind of doing it, like wasn't even close to what you were doing. And I think one of the greatest things I love about how you play Sonic is also your combo selection, right? It's very intentional. It's something I try to preach day in and day out, that when it comes to people playing this game, a lot of times people just go, I'm going to do these, like the combo that does the most damage that I know here, right? And it's like, there's a lot of situations, especially in this game, depending on the characters that you're playing, where it's like, no, it's more so like, yes, do a ton of damage, but you also want to make sure that you're getting the best position. And that's extremely important for a character like Sonic, where like Sonic can theoretically chase characters at any position, right? But then it's like you want to pick the position in which the character has the biggest deficit on, right? Like a character that is terrible off stage, obviously you want to tailor your combo game to have them off stage, right? And you're really, really good at that. Like Charles was talking about the meaty nair, right? I love that, right? When you get the sharp spot nair and a bear. But what you've been doing now is like, which is so clean, right? You've been getting the like just optimizing that. So you're getting the sour spot nair now into the short hop fast fall up air, or the full hop like up air on a platform into a bear to hit them back out again, right? And put them in hardest positions in terms of DI or just getting a sheer kill. And those things are huge. So now it's like you're getting something that's really good at catching like a jump from someone, a regular get up, if they potentially try to, if they're trying to go for the, once a game mix up and doing a get up attack or something like that too, they'll get hit as well, those kind of things. And you're just getting, you're again, being very intentional in where you're directing your opponent. And at the same time, you're doing a ton of damage, right? You're getting like this 30% plus you're getting a juggle situation. You're getting, 30% or like 40%, and then you're going into a edge guard, right? Or if it's like an early opener, like, in some cases, you're getting a clean 65, 70%, right? I remember back in the day, like back in Brawl Day, people used to be like, oh, dude, Sonic is so trash on platforms, or even Smash 4, sometimes people would be like, oh, trash on platform. We would be on platforms, right? And now it's like, dude, you love those platforms. I see you like, seeing you play, and the
extensions are insane.
So good at that. Yeah, it's incredible. And it's funny too, because I just remember like a lot of the old guard for Sonics, they just did not want to learn how to use platforms, right? In the right way, because they're always like, oh, there's no way it cuts off my spin dash jump, so I can't do this and all this other stupid crap. But like, dude, when I see you weave around like platforms, like it's definitely a work of art. And yeah, to see you like hit someone at early percents, and it's like, oh, I just hit them for 65, and I got them off stage.
Right? Yeah, that's the crazy thing. Like you get all that damage, and you set up an off stage situation, like
right. it's so good because again, you are very intentional about what you're doing, right? So like a lot of these enders, you're like, oh, am I going to bear him off stage? Okay, I'll go for bear. Is this character suck at juggling? Then you know what? I'm going to go for the up air strength, and I'm going to chill there, and I'm going to trap their landing, right? And I can maneuver around. And again, I love that you did Charles. You brought up Zero Suit because Zero Suit is also a character who can kind of get like where anyone is, right? Because of her speed and all things
Crazy
too. But
mobility, yeah. So like those
yeah,
are like the
crazy
two
movement.
there might be other characters that have better mobility, but they're definitely up there in the rankings of mobility in this game, right? Sonic and
Yeah.
Zero Suit, like insane
Yep.
mobility options.
Yeah, because I think there's a couple of characters who can kind of chase, like Greninja can kind of chase, but the thing about it, like his overall air, like his aerials outside of like Upair and stuff like that, they're just like in like of course Bear, they're slow. They're not going to be as doing as much damage, right? But Sonic can set up situations where he can actually get a ton of damage, um, off like these like stray hits or like juggle situations or whatever it may be, right? And can edge guard. You have a lot of just the sheer burst options, right? You have to like key in on homing attack, right? You have to respect that move because if you're just caught slacking, right, and you're just like off and you think you're off in the in the near the blast zone and you're just having a good time thinking about your next attack, all of a sudden Sonic just flew right over to you, hit you, and now you're near the blast zone and you're in danger of like dying to bear at some like obscene percent, right? And then it's like it's a situation where Sonic can kind of just sit and wait, and he can shadow you all the way down, and then Sonic can be like, I don't want to play this guessing game anymore. I'm gonna do a spring. See you later. I'm gonna go back to the ledge, and if the spring hits you, sucks to suck, dude. See you later, right? And then if it doesn't hit you, then it's like, okay, you got past the first test, good for you. Now you're on the ledge, and you got to deal with me, right? And it's like that character has a lot of these like, again, this character can chase you and pressure everywhere, and it's funny because I know I keep kind of talking back to like Brawl and Smash 4 and stuff, but it's very interesting to see that progression. Because I remember a long like back in the Brawl days and Smash 4 days, people always wanted to play this kind of type of Sonic, right? And it's like I remember like even myself personally, I love that stuff, right? And then I'd see like 6WX kind of like bringing that like alongside and pushing that way too. And then like seeing you like really exemplify that kind of style and play, and seeing it in this game at this caliber is like insane, right? And it's like the character is now in the right position where you like most of the tools work, and now it's like it's scary because you can play that dangerous mid range because you can choose to kind of sit back and be like a bit more defensive, right? You can choose to be pressure someone, and you have to respect the pressure because that neutral with the character. And best believe once you get a hit, like you're gonna make them pay for it, right? So it's cool to see that play style could start to become more successful. I think I've seen that in you, even in Light and kind of how Light has been playing Fox too, kind of knowing where that kind of that spacings in which he wants to be, making sure to avoid like despite the character being light, certain things like you're picking the appropriate poison so you're not dying at obscene percent. And it's like once you get a hit, you're just keeping them there, right? And it's like every interaction thought damage. So yeah, it's just really good to see that on the end and to see Sonic play that way. I always thought it was funny because like I think that there's certain similarities in the way that Sonic can play when he's like going fast and just putting on that pressure. That's kind of similar to Fox,
Yeah.
just in a different way. It's not so much the fast fall and the double jumps, but just the sheer ground speed. But a lot of similar kind of pressure, and like you're in a certain range where it's like it's hard for people to kind of like deal with, right? And that pressure and the damage you get per hit, and it's cool to see that Sonics have been able to push that. Obviously, particularly you, right? So
It's funny. I hear a lot of praise about Sonic's center stage play. What really, to me personally, stands out more than anything is kind of the transitions from corner to center and back and forth. Uh, we actually usually refer to that as mid, and that's the area both above, and so upper mid and lower mid, and it's the space right between ledge roll and then the center circle. And during that area, it's generally around an area where you have access to both backdashes in both directions,
Hmm.
but you also don't have stage control. So the knockback, like if you guys trade a forward smash, for example, one of you is going to lose the stock and the other might not. So it still has very clear asymmetrical properties, but a lot of the ground movement is the same. And generally, when you see people who are there, they'll still try and fight for center from there, even though they still have access to their full toolkit. On a lot of the legal stages, usually full hops are kind of turned off in that space. And that's also a that kind of channels right into the platform movement and how Sonix weaves around the platform speaks. He usually has very specific intentions for where he's going to and from so he'll have like a beginning, a midpoint, and an endpoint to his movements in that area. And you see him have like a lot of combo starters. And I think what's most interesting to watch is what you don't see when you're watching him play. So if you actually watch the way Sonix will move around platforms when he's not comboing people, if you're actually looking for what he's looking for, then you'll notice that there's actually a lot of combo starters in there that are just such amazing risk reward for him. But you don't notice it because there's no real interaction that happens. It's just a matter of, well, if his opponent had done this, that was also a 65 damage combo starter, and then he flew into a 65 damage combo starter, and then the third thing that the opponent did got hit, and then you see the 65 damage combo starter. But it's more a matter of there's just like so many things for his opponent to get caught on that they don't, but just through the sheer number of like traps and positions that he plays well, a lot of people just end up getting caught. And in particular, I since we brought up Tweak on this, I ended up actually having a conversation with Tweak before the top 8, and we were talking about Tweak dealing with Sonix at I believe it was MomoCon, and I told him specifically that I was expecting Sonix to outplay him at the midpoint on stage, because I basically pointed out that the way he tends to leave corner is something that people can bait from him heavily.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of, to be fair, I don't think we named Sonix explicitly, but he kind of ended up realizing we were talking about Sonix, and so he ended up getting outplayed by Sonix on those exact points. And if you go back and watch their set at CEO, you'll see where like Sonix kind of pulls back to center and then re-engages back at that midpoint. And so you'll see his movement where you'll see him moving to one place. You'll think that's where he's going. But something Sonix is really good at is manipulating his opponent's responses and turning that into something else. So he'll basically just show them what he wants them to think and then actually go for what he really wants. And because he has those rotations on the different things that he wants to be, the different places he wants to be, those allow him to really mix his opponent up a lot. And like you said before, Sonic is really good in the corner. So it's more a matter of just getting as much play out of the spaces before you get to the corner. And then even if your opponent plays everything right, they really corner you, they chased all your retreats, then they successfully are now fighting Sonic in the corner. And that's so they just now get to Sonix the Sonic player. At that point, they've been fighting Sonix the Sonic. So it's like an entirely different matchup. And then sometimes Sonix will just come back all the way to that point and catch them if he thinks they're not ready for it. So there's just a lot of levels of play to it that let him leverage his skill and in preparation over the opponent. And I will once again reiterate that I think that the big thing that Sonix has over other people is his preparation, because he doesn't take for granted that he's just gonna beat people. Like, he doesn't say, "Oh, well, I'm better than them, so I'm just gonna win." You don't hear that sentence from his mouth. You hear him say, "Well, what can I do to get ready for this? If I'm not ready for this position, then I'm not ready, so I should look into that." And so he'll actually look into it. He'll look up people who are similar. He asks people for advice. He actually looks up people who will play similar positions, similar situations, similar characters, and actually get the experience, learn from that, collaborate with people. So it's not just a matter of he just has a coach. It's a matter of he accepts advice where he can find it and actively looks for it. So he doesn't just sit on his ass and then just say, "Yeah, I'm a top player, I can do this." Like, he doesn't coast at all. So
Spirit of the game, man. You love
exactly.
To see it.
So he's grinding from the start. He's doing it smartly, efficiently, et cetera, et cetera. Just love to see it.
Yeah, and I love the explanation of like that mid area, because I feel like a lot of play styles are cemented from what you usually make, what kind of decision you usually make in that position, right? Like, I think a player like Tweak in that position will usually retreat, right? Not always, obviously. All top players have mix-ups, but like every every top player has their preferences in that mid area, and I think like just explaining that mid area is really interesting because just so many things happen in that mid area. But one thing I wanted to ask Sonics actually, so other obviously like spin dashing and not being able to shield was probably the biggest crux Sonic had from 4 to this game. Obviously, if you could do it, like you're a way stronger character if you can do that, right? Because shield is a frame one option, obviously. I think you found like amazing ways to compensate for it. I think even to the point where you started practicing it in Smash 4 is actually crazy. That's like ridiculous. That's really smart. Because that I think that just like helps you, right? And you're just trying to mentally prepare for it. Obviously, it's going to be different in Ultimate comparatively to Smash 4, but you're trying to get your like the concepts down, right? I would, this is a question I have. So, do you think the second hardest thing to kind of adapt to for Sonic or figure out how to use Sonic was the up air? Because the up air not working off of spin dash, right? So like when I think Smash 4 Sonic, I think spin dash shield, and then I think spin dash. Oh, I react, it connected, I up air, and then you up air or whatever, right? So like I think those two things is what makes Sonic so different in Ultimate. And honestly, Sonic might have been. Like, I actually think Sonic was crazy good in Smash 4, but we just didn't get to that point of the game where people were like really abusing what Sonic could do. Because it felt
Yeah.
like it almost felt so cookie cutter the way to win with him, right? You just like would time
Yeah.
people out, spin that shield. But yeah, I guess my question is do you think the up air is because people falling out of rising upper like that was the second biggest thing for you to overcome, or maybe if it wasn't, what was the second thing you felt like it was to overcome Sonic, kind of learning how to craft Sonic into the character he is today, right? Because obviously beginning of Ultimate, Sonics were just getting blown out left and right, and because you guys are trying to figure out how to use the character.
Yeah. Yeah, so spin dash shield cancel is definitely the main thing. And like you said, the next issue that we encountered, moving on from Smash 4 to Ultimate, would be the up air, yeah. Because up air was not only a good combo tool in Smash 4, it was also it was an out of shield option. Like you got hit by anything out of shield, up air would just scoop you up, and then it could combo into low percent strings like up air, back air, the same things we see today in Ultimate, or it could straight up combo into a kill move. Like it could combo into up air, up B, up air, and you were dead. And losing that in this game, it was kind of tough, and it was also really hard getting used to that because our main combo tool in Smash 4 was spin dash up air into imagination with double jump into imagination. And in this game, going for spin dash up air and people would just fall out of it. It was like, oh, well, there goes my combo. Or damn, maybe Sonic sucks because up air doesn't work. And then spin charge also doesn't work as often. So it was a lot of things, but it was mainly the combo game that varied a little bit coming from Smash 4. It was just hard to figure out because we were all just so hyper fixated with the up air and the other combos, man. It got to the point where it was like, well, if this doesn't work, then Sonic must suck. And we kind of just closed off any other possibilities regarding the character until recently. I was a firm believer since day one. I was one of the people who would be like, bro, I swear to God, Sonic does not suck. Occasionally, I would joke around saying, ah, never mind, this character sucks or something, but it was never serious. But I was a firm believer that Sonic was top tier. He was like, I always thought he was a low top tier. I knew, like, every time I played him, I was like, I don't think I'm losing because Sonic is bad. I'm losing because I'm bad, and I don't know what I'm doing with the character. And I know I'm trying to play certain things like Smash 4, and they don't work like that in this game anymore.
Mhm.
And aside from that, I would say the biggest thing is his movement. In Smash 4, perfect pivoting, spin that shield cancel in general opened up a whole plethora of movement options. So losing that in this game, it was horrible. It was terrible for Sonic because with the new addition of the new like the dash dancing mechanics, the character can feel sloppy if you don't learn how to move with him correctly. Because Sonic's uh Sonic's dash dance, the one where you don't cancel it, it's actually quite slow. So for example, if you just dash, and it's kind of when you see him just stop mid dash, but he kind of like he does this. it's pretty laggy. Like I think it's about mm, you can act after 8 frames or 7 or 8 frames after the animation's over, which is kind of slow to a character as fast as Sonic. Whereas in Smash 4, you could just either walk or you could dash, screech stop, which basically works the same way as canceling dash animations in this game, but only Sonic had access to it in that game. In this game, everybody can do that. So it wasn't just a matter of, oh, Sonic changed, Sonic got worse, but it's also everybody's also better, and everybody can do similar things that only Sonic could do in the previous game. And that was kind of like the hard part of getting used to the new changes that Sonic experienced in this game.
Yeah, it's a drastic change of playstyle when you have to kind of relearn how to move, right? I think that's a very big deal, and I think the way that the Sonic players kind of dealt with up air was really interesting too. We see a lot more falling up air, even like, oh, this might not combo, but I'm gonna falling up air and it's plus on block, and if I hit the falling up air, that's like you're getting Smash 4 up air. You're getting Smash 4 rising up air, right? Maybe even better, maybe a little bit even more frame advantage because you're falling into the ground. So you guys kind of figured out how to emulate those situations, but in different ways. And then just like, oh, spin dash, like Nair. Like I up air don't work. All right, I guess I got a Nair. You know what I mean? Like it's not bad. It's just you don't get to really combo off hard Nair at like maybe the higher or mid percents, right? So it's like, okay, cool. I just get my 30 damage or whatever, and I get my advantage state. I can chase them down, yada yada. So I think the adaptation was very impressive.
Yeah, it was really it's awesome too that it's like I think there was like a certain time, kind of Sonics like you were alluding to, right, where people were just kind of gave up on up air, and then over time people were just like learning how to like, okay, let me do this a little later. Let me make sure I weave into their body more, right, when I'm getting
Yeah,
this up air to
yeah,
give myself the best chance to get the get these combos, right. And it's great that like you and I saw a couple other like lab rats as well, kind of getting more at it. I remember even like back, just like kind of talking with people and like kind of doing my own due diligence as well, and I'm just like, man, this thing still combos, right? It's not the same. It's definitely not the easy bake like Smash 4, but it's still a possibility, right? And
yeah.
with that dash upgrade, because Sonic did get a better in terms of the actual speed. He got a better dash in that game, or like compared to Smash 4, right? Um, but like he has, because he has that sheer speed, now he can get in the burst and get in close enough into their hurt box to where he can get those up airs, right? And you see that from you, like how you are, like you're positioning yourself, um, and like you said, like now you can get the nairs and stuff like that from the spin dash jumps. I mean, even in certain situations, now too, right? You get the up air and you land on a platform, right? And then you can go from there. I know that sometimes too you can go for like the spin dash jump and you go for a delayed up air, and even without a platform, right, you can combo from that too. But that one's a little tighter timing. But I think as you're seeing like Sons just kind of get more comfortable with how to position that, like it's been insane to see, right? Even with some of the hard hitting nairs, right? That people have been getting good on that, even at like, because you can, it's harder, but you can in fact like combo from those from like the mid and the late, the kind of later percents as well too. But it's crazy because that movement, like you said, right? Even sometimes you would see it with, like, ironically, Mac is probably like kind of the worst offender of this, right? Because his dash would be so long, right, and so speed, so it's like you're not able to do that kind of micro spacing, right? And yeah, some were so used to having that micro spacing tool because you had the run stop. I mean, so obviously you still have the run stop in this game, but it's like now you're competing with characters who have really great like dash stops, right? In general, in comparison. Um, so it's cool to see how you were all able to kind of like navigate that in that way. Again, I think that there's a lot of credit to how you've been able to move around like a lot of those platforms. Tony made like a great point in terms of how you're fighting in that mid range, right? Where you get to the point where you still have access to getting that backdash, but it's the same situation where it's like that's when people start to think about: Am I going to run? Am I going to get? Am I going to have to? Am I going to get out of this corner or not? I love how you stand your ground in that. I love how you're like you move around those platforms and utilize that to you do either like defend yourself or get or a reversal and then go from there, right? But I wanted to ask you to kind of one of the things on your end, because more people got better at dealing with, in my opinion, with dealing with like spin charge, uh, into like spin dash jump into like fair, right? You'll still see that as a like kill confirm. Obviously, it's really strong. It's a crazy corner carry. It just like takes you to the side of blast zone and then goodbye forever, right? But you see in a lot of people kind of get better at knowing those random percents and avoiding that. So my question to you is like, what do you think? Like, not just for yourself specifically, but what do you think Sonics have been doing better to kind of alleviate that not having as readily access to that because people are keying in on that? And what do you think in the future, like, are going to be kind of Sonic's go-to options to kind of get more of these kills and kind of just keep that like diverse like kill set? I guess I would say.
I think that the the counterplay Sonics have found to that is, and this is something that Wrath has been doing since I believe like 2020 or something. And I'm pretty sure 6WX would do it in Smash 4, and it's basically jump back forwarder, because when you do the spin charge, let's say this is Sonic with the spin charge, if your opponent DIs in, up and in, sometimes they'll end up behind you, so they'll end up here. And obviously you can't connect the forwarder here, but because you have a double jump still, you can double jump back and then forward air. And this is kind of like the way we've played around it. That being said, sometimes depending on both the spin charges charge and the hitbox we end up getting, so like the jump hitbox we get, they may be straight up out of range for even jump back forward air. And in that case, the most we can get is jump back nair, which is still good because it still puts them in a disadvantage situation that you can follow up from. But obviously, it's not as good as just getting the kill that you would have gotten from the spin charge forwarder. And people have gotten good against the spin charge. That's very true. And spin dash. And I think that the main thing Sonic players have done to counter this is getting better at playing without spin dash and without spin charge. And it's kind of like, what Tony said about the positioning. Basically, I'm playing smash from the ledge to center, and then once I get to center, I decide, am I gonna play Sonic now, or am I gonna keep playing smash? And then it's up to my opponent to read that, or just make a decision based on that. And it's kind of also how that one YouTube comment said that I posted on my Twitter account. It was,
The
you're not
hedgehog
playing,
catches you
yeah,
lacking.
you're not also
Yeah.
playing catch the hedgehog. You're also playing the hedgehog catches you lacking.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
That's
feel
it.
like, yeah, we know people have been getting better at the matchup, especially since quarantine. They were kind of forced to do so because of the uprise in Sonics. But I feel like, I feel like that's what makes Sonic so good in this game. It's the fact that he doesn't care. Sonic doesn't care because it's like, okay, you can learn how to play against this, but are you ready for this? And
Yeah,
then,
it's a
okay, you
lot
might be
of
ready for
options.
this, but are you also gonna be ready for like, and then you can kind of like transition between the two. Like, okay, I'm gonna play with spin dash, I'm gonna play without spin dash. You're never gonna guess which one it is.
I feel like
Yeah.
there's no like cookie cutter way to beat Sonic, in my opinion. There's no like, I mean, because even you just have to get good at the situations that Sonic puts you in, but they're pretty much like best case scenario for you. They're best case scenario for you. They're RPS situations that you can just win, right? There's not like even like when we think of a character like Steve, right? We can all pretty much agree speed plus disjoints is going to be very good against Steve in neutral, right? So stuff like that, like there's a very like generalistic thing that's good against a character. With Sonic, I don't know if there's a generalistic thing that is good against him. Like maybe if you have something to lock out his like ground mobility is like my first thought, but like even things like it really the only things that can do that are maybe items. But if you have good item control, like you just run up and then you like jump press Z, like rising item catch into like throw. You could just like insta throw it. You could fade back and hold on to the item, and you still have, like Sonic's one of the few characters that can hold on to an item and play his throw out his best neutral moves. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I don't know. To me, I feel like the character's pretty future proof because even the character already has insane damaging combos and kill setups, but even if you can get out of those, that's probably still not even his biggest strength. His biggest strength is just being able, like the way you can push advantage state with him, the way that he's one of the few characters that can dip low on an edge guard and cover low and high at the same time. Like, oh, I dropped low, you went low, okay, like we're playing the edge guard low game. Like where am I gonna catch your double jump? Yada yada, right? Oh, you double jumped and went high. Usually most characters in that situation are like, okay, I can get to the stage first at best, but I can't edge guard him high, right? Like Zero Suit could be like, oh, okay, well I'm gonna get to the stage and still get my ledge trap, or still maybe get my 2-frame or whatnot, right? Even same with Sheik, where it's like, oh, okay, well I can just like, you didn't go low, I'm gonna double jump bouncy fish back to ledge, yada yada, right? But Sonic can literally has vertical burst. Like no other character has like a vertical burst like that, to my knowledge, that puts you in a state in which you can attack with your aerials, right? So you can like, okay, B reverse spring on reaction, and then from there it's like, okay, am I going to rise up with the back air, or are you going to air dodge, right? There's like so many areas you can do, and these moves that Sonic can throw out of these insane mobility options are very powerful moves. Like back air kind of has the linger, right? Like, and then I don't know, I feel like when neutral and advantage state is your character's strong suits, those are very general things that happen often. They happen very often, right? So I just feel like in that way, I just don't really see Sonic getting worse. And I feel like when I think of future-proof characters, I think of characters that get better, like characters that aren't just gimmicks, right? Because there's gimmick characters, and I mean, every character has their own little gimmicks, but it's just how much do you rely on your gimmick to win? And if you have a gimmick, that means it probably has some kind of counterplay, because that's usually what gimmicks are labeled as, right? Because if it has counterplay, then it's probably not a gimmick, it's probably just a really good option. And I feel like Sonic doesn't really have gimmicks, he just has like a bunch of really strong options, and you kind of have to just hold that. And the better people get at playing neutral game, you know what I mean? Like the more the game becomes more neutral based, because the punish game becomes like, I feel like generally Smash games, it's like, okay, everyone's punish game is getting better, so everyone has to camp harder, because the first year of every Smash game, we're all running at each other because all of our punish games are dog shit, and we don't want to camp because we did it in the previous iteration. So we're all running at each other. Year one, right? That's how every Smash game is. And then after a year, everyone's like, yep, Smash is campy. Everyone's punish game is getting too good. Like, this guy hits me and does 60. This guy hits me, he kills me. Like, I can't just run into that. I have to play more neutral, right? And then we all start playing more neutral because the punish game gets scaled up, and we kind of just realize the defensive play is going to be more defensive/reactive play is more consistent. And it's just funny because you see the cycle repeat itself like every year. And I think a really good example is, I always bring this up, Void getting second at the first Genesis. Everyone runs at Void. You ever try running at Void in friendlies? Like, and you play the game with Void where you're just like, you know what? Let's beat each other up, and whoever just has the better combo game wins. Void's insanely good in that environment. You know what I mean? And obviously Void was insanely, I mean, right now Void is still a very good Smash player, but you really see Void's strengths when he's like comboing, you know, his conversion game, right? Like that was the big thing about Void. And it's just funny because at Genesis, you just saw everyone running at Void, and obviously, especially with pre-patch Pichu, it was like really ridiculous, right? So, but yeah, I mean, I guess just my kind of future thoughts of Sonic. I don't know where you guys feel like Sonic is going to end up being in like maybe a year or two of the game, but I think the character can only get stronger.
Yeah, I mean, you and I have talked about this before, and like literally from day one, I thought the character was going to be a top tier character. I think that one of the biggest things for me about Sonic, and I've talked to people about this for over like a decade, pretty much now. Sonic is a character. He has a lot of options. Usually, characters who have a lot of options like that, and a lot of mix stuff with that, they're usually good, right? Unless there's like some unforeseen things. It's very clear if you saw Sonic back in the day in Brawl, the reason why he was bad was just literally nonsense. Like,
well, he had no return, right?
Yeah, he was minus on hit. Like, You know what I mean? Like
Negative
like,
return.
that's it. Like, but that's
Literally
fine.
could
Like,
not win neutral with your attacks.
the character was minus on hit, and then still somehow was like
He
a
was
mid-tier,
added in
right? Just,
last
like, think
minute.
about that.
Keep that in
Yeah,
mind.
but-
He was like, wasn't he like super last minute? They weren't even
Yeah, he
supposed
was
to put him
super
in the
last
game,
minute.
and they were just
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Fuck it, we're throwing him in."
Oh, they just put
Yeah.
him in, right? But it's just like, and it's like, and then the thing is like in Smash 4, right? Then his like spin was just insane, right? And like now that things are actually working, you could tell the character was insane, right? And pretty much what they did in Ultimate is they essentially like neutered some of the things around like this his like spin stance, right? And it's but they buffed his like his run like gameplay, like his like run based gameplay, like it's essentially all his regular stuff, you know, to the point that Sonix was making, right? Like I'm playing Smash or am I playing Sonic, right? Like, and that's really the idea, right? And Sonic has always been that character where he kind of had that, like you can play this like super like fast paced dash heavy kind of just like more of his like his tilts and all those things like that, right? In his aerials and play that run based style, or you have like his spin like base style, right? Because spin is essentially a stance change. Like people can say whatever they want about the move and act like it's like one singular thing. Like that, the move is multifaceted. It can do a lot of things, and that's why it's so good. It's literally a stance change. But now it's like a thing where the stance change is still good, and now all his like his run based on all that stuff now is really good too. And so there's just a lot of things this character can do where it, to me, I just couldn't see this character being bad, especially in a game where homing attack is now a usable tool. Like that, the idea and the concept of a homing attack is crazy. You think about it, right? Like it's insane. You know, it's like this, like we talked about having a burst option, right? He has an aerial burst option. That's what it is. He has an aerial burst option, right? With a character that has a pretty good recovery, so they can go out there and chase you, right? With like Fair, that's going to be like can you chase and get into spaces that other characters really can't threaten you in, and the character can wait out most characters because he has a better recovery than most characters, right? And just by your sheer recovery and utilizing homing attack, he's probably going to get back anyways unless you air dodge in a really bad position. And then it's like, yeah, maybe he dies. Maybe he just comes back anyways because of spring, right? The wall jump or something. And so to me, it was just like as the character's combo game gets better, the character's already going to have really good neutral. And it's like as people get better with edge guarding, like there's just a lot of situations where like he's one of the characters who kind of can make some of the checkmate situations off stage, right? You've seen Sonix continue to get better in optimizing their like ledge and corner situations. So it's like when someone's in the corner, then it's like, yeah, you could just die, right? You can die to a sour spot in air if you get hit by a sour spot in air, right? And you just got caught lacking there. You can die to a 2-frame forward smash wherever it may be, right? And if the character even just gets an F tilt, which is like still a really solid tool, great hurt box shifting, right? We talked about it, ongoing theme of Sonic. That's really strong as well that people tend to overlook. Then if you get the hurt box shifting, then it's like, cool. Then now it's like you're off stage. And even though there's some small cues on spin dash and spin charge, even sometimes some people get confused by Nair, which is kind of funny, but understandable. What happens is when you have a lot of moves that look kind of similar, like it's going to be hard for people to understand, right? It's like it in and of itself is a mix-up because it takes people a longer time to register, especially if they've never played Sonic. Like I always tell people if they're really trying to learn how to play against Sonic, at least play the character at least a little bit and recognize what's going on. Because a lot of people just think they have no clue what's going on. And it's like, dude, if you can't recognize those simple things from that character, good luck, dude. Like that character's just gonna run all over you, like literally just run all over you. So it's cool to see that people are getting that, like Sonics have just kind of been elevating that, and like you have those mix-ups in tandem with just like you said, it's not gimmicks. Like the character just has strong tools, right? And then just overall like gameplay is like insane. And when you have those mix-ups, you have a huge very fleshed out toolkit that can deal with a lot of things, and you have there's counterplay that can be built. And as long as there's going to be that counterplay out there, and you're going to have that power, and you're going to be able to chase in that way and have that advantage, to everyone's point here, like, how can this character fall off, right? Usually when you have a toolkit like this in any game, you're not going to be bad, period. And again, the only reason why Sonic was ever bad in one game, and that was literally because of pure nonsense. Like, literally stuff not working. That's the only reason. So, yeah, it's to me like obviously I love Sonic. It's like sick to see the play style. Me personally, I feel like offensive Sonic was like one of the sickest characters to watch in the game, and I love seeing it. I love seeing just the character in itself do work. So um, yeah, I think this character is here to stay. It's just like, can you like to pilot that character is difficult. Like the character has a lot of tools and there's a lot of like nuance to it. It's one of those characters where a lot of times it just takes time. It doesn't play exactly like every other character. I think this character probably has more of a game plan that is more similar for people to understand because the run based playstyle is more prevalent in this game versus previous iterations of Smash. But still, for a lot of people, it's going to take them time to really pick up the character and learn the nuance and stuff too. So I don't think we'll see a ton of them at the level. But we're definitely going to see the character. I know Sonics, you're going to keep jamming it, so we'll definitely see the character from you. But yeah, this character is not going to go anywhere, man. The character is insanely strong, and it was just only a matter of time in my eyes.
So I'd actually like to go ahead and reframe this for Sonix because I'm curious what he has to say on it. I feel like the meta going into the rest of the year is becoming more defined than usual, for Ultimate at least, just because of how balanced the game is. You can always pretty much just pull out a raffle to decide what your matchups are going to be on any given tournament. But as there's more qualifying events and more invitational style events, we're starting to get a more limited, more consistent pool of players.
Yes, we are.
Like, for example, as of the time we're recording this, I believe we currently have 5 people invited to Panda Cup. There's Onin, there's going to be Big D, there's Toast, there's going to be Riddles, and of course Sonics. So essentially, it comes down to Fighter Pass 2 Shoto characters or Shoto-esque punish characters.
Right, right.
Your oddball mid tier esque combo characters that uh, are really safe on block but are sensitive to getting hit off stage, and then of course Sonic. So we can take it for granted that Leo is gonna qualify for that as well at some point, and then of course
I'd
on the
imagine.
Smash.
Yeah.
And then over at Colossal, we got Leo, obviously, once again qualifying for Smash World Tour. You're going to have Meister, and you've got Bloom's Bayo coming up behind, and then you've got Gluto hanging in the back. So you've got all these characters that are still pretty wide. We're starting to get more narrowed down archetypes. Is basically actually let's be real. It's weird mid tiers that hit really hard, and Shotos and Fighter Pass 2. So and then the fast sword characters. So my question is, going into a meta that looks like that, how do you feel like Sonic is gonna perform this coming year in Smash World Tour and the Panda Cup?
I honestly think that's a perfect bracket for Sonic. I think those are all really good matchups that Sonic excels in. That being said, you can never sleep because although they are good matchups, like you well said, those characters hit really hard, and even on the smallest mistake you make, you can either lose your stock or take 60%. Now you're at disadvantage. But on
Actually,
the other hand, yeah, sorry, go
no, no,
ahead.
no. Finish your point. Finish your point.
I was gonna say, but the same way they can take your stock or deal for 60%, Sonic can also do the same thing. So it's I think it's gonna be a matter of who's more on point with their punish game. And for Sonic, it'll be a matter of am I am I picking and choosing my spots correctly, or am I getting baited, or am I playing as evasive as I should play against this specific move or this specific character? And I think those things will define how those matchups will go. But overall, I feel like those matchups are all really, really good for Sonic.
I was gonna ask, what matchups do you think are actually losing for Sonic? I know you have a lot of faith in your character, and you said you think there's about 3 characters that you think beat Sonic. So that's not a lot, honestly. In terms of a matchup chart, you think very, very like that's top 5 vibes kind of thing, top 3, top 5 kind of vibes. So
Okay, so when I did this earlier, I meant to say 0.
Oh,
Okay, that's
0.
what I thought. I thought it was 0. Okay. That's what I thought for
Okay.
first. But then when I
Zero-
saw
so a
this,
lot
I was
less
like, oh,
than
okay. I was
3.
like, oh, I
Yeah,
thought it was
it's like
0.
3 or 0, right? Or
Yeah.
30,
No,
which
no,
is
no.
would
I
be
thought it was
wild.
0.
I know you didn't
But-
say 30 because 3 and 0 that'd be funny. But
No, no.
so 0,
Well,
okay.
yeah, I mean, I think 0, but that might be me being super optimistic about him.
Okay.
But at the same time, if I really sit down and think, okay, what does this character have over Sonic in the matchup? It all boils down to, can this character deal with spin dash very well? If
Hmm.
the answer is yes, then the matchup is going to be hard for Sonic. But spin dash in itself, it's a whole different character. Like spin dash and spin
That's
charge
a
are
stance. That's
two
just a stance.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Like, and I think this is what makes Sonic so good, and this is why I think Sonic doesn't really have any like straight up losing matchups. It's the fact that the counterplay to spin dash, the counterplay to spin dash is pretty much hitting Sonic. Like you're gonna spin dash, just hit him. Just hit him out of spin dash. Spin dash is frame 17. Your dash attack is probably gonna beat it, or clank with it. But now but that's mostly how you play against Sonics that back dash and run to the corner. And now the counterplay to people uh hitting you out of spin dash and overshooting is to release spin dash early. So now what happens is you're gonna think, oh, he's gonna dash into the corner and spin dash. Let me just go hit him. But then he releases spin dash way earlier than you thought he would, and now you got hit by spin dash, and now you're off stage, and then the whole, and then you're sitting there like, okay, so what do I do? Should I just not approach? Should I just hold center? But it's like, if you try to play time against Sonic, you're eventually gonna lose. Like, you're gonna time yourself out, and this happens all the time. Like it happened when I played Tweak Smash Bros. Tour. I was chilling the whole time because I knew. I was like, I play the fastest character in the game. Eventually, you're gonna slip up. You're not gonna be able to keep out the fastest character in the game for 7 minutes. So I'm just gonna be patient. As long as I know there's time on the clock, I can just get this one hit and take the stock. And I did, and that's what happened. And it also happened against the Bus this past weekend. And so that's the thing. Like there's, like you said, there's no clear counter play to Sonic, and I think that's what makes him so strong, and at the same time makes makes it so that he doesn't really have any losing matchups. That being said, I will say that if I had to pick any losing matchups, I would have to say probably Roy because of
You can abuse your weight. Roy's one of the few characters that can abuse your weight, and if they
yeah,
catch you slipping, because the thing is, Sonic's disadvantage is so good. So he's very light, but it's a very common thing to see top level Sonic players live past 120, 150, because
yeah,
the character's just really hard to catch, right? Really hard to catch. You have spring mix-ups on juggles. You can spring out of combos. You're putting out a hitbox. You're ejecting yourself upward. Is there platforms? If there's a high platform, you could air dodge to it, right? You have a very solid directional air dodge. It can just be really hard, but Roy's one of those characters where, yeah, like you just catch a ledge jump or a normal get up on the ledge with the jab, like Sonic's gonna
yeah,
get obliterated at 60 or 70% with rage, right?
yeah,
And it's a
exactly.
frame 2 air dodge at that.
Oh my,
Yeah,
and Sonic has a frame too. Let's not forget,
Yeah.
Sonic has a
yeah,
Fox air dodge. It's absolutely
yeah.
insane.
He needs it.
Yep,
Of course he
he
does.
does. He really does.
Is there any other characters other than Roy? Sorry for interrupting you.
No, you're good. You're good. Other than Roy, Pikachu's pretty hard because Pikachu is essentially aerial Sonic. It's like
Hmm.
Pikachu, he's the same way as Sonic in the sense of he can fight you in center stage, he can keep you at ledge, he can edge guard you, and he can also retreat to the corner and then quick attack is broken.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you basically like you gotta deal with quick attack. So it's a whole new character. Pikachu can also play Pikachu or Smash. So and I think the reason why the matchup could be losing is because of number one, Pikachu can cheese Sonic with an offstage game. Pikachu's edge guarding game is insane.
Yeah.
Um, Pikachu's neutral is also pretty good, though I would say it's pretty even in that aspect. But the biggest thing is Pikachu's disadvantage is insane. Like Sonic can't really edge guard Pikachu like that, nor can he ledge trap him consistently. He can play position he can play the position based game better than Pikachu can for the most part, but everything else Pikachu either goes even with Sonic or does better. So that's why I think the matchup is like even, but I could also see losing. maybe losing. Other than that, um, other than that, I don't see any other losing matchups for Sonic. I know Ken, for example, thinks we lose 25 matchups. He said Diddy was one of them. Um, but he also acknowledged that he might need some experience in that matchup.
Mhm.
Fox is kind of hard for the same reason Roy is.
Oh yeah, he can just kind of get some certain KO options, like actually like dying to bear at 90 or
Yeah,
100%. That's
yeah,
pretty absurd versus a move that is as good as Fox back air. And that's like a pretty easy scenario to get. And like characters that can chase down, I always thought characters that can chase down spin dash is always a huge plus, right? And then if you can negate Sonic's advantage state, which is like very rare, but Pikachu is one of those examples, right? Where it's like Sonic has such a good advantage state, but then like it's like, oh well, this character also has stupid mobility, so it's like, okay,
yeah,
well it kind of like negates your advantage state pushing. Yeah, okay,
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
And
That's yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Tony.
I just wanted to clarify for the viewers at home, or rather ask a clarifying question. Now, when you say Sonic can't really edge guard Pikachu, you can like you as a player can still edge guard Pikachu players. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely.
So it's just a matter of Pikachu players are like committing unnecessarily from the blast zone when they're
When they
recovering
don't
like
need
early
to.
skull bashes and things like
Yeah.
that.
Oh man, the
Is that-
classics. I love
Double
those.
jump T jolt,
I
baby.
love those, dude.
Well done,
Yes.
Pijo.
The
Yeah.
skull bash, dude.
That's
That gets me hype every time. I'm
that's
like,
the
dang,
money
you-
maker, bro.
Oh yeah,
Double jump
When
T-jolt?
you see
Give me
Pikachu's
that.
doing that. Oh, just a bear away, man. Just-
I just I see people talking about how great Pikachu is all the time, and then one of the most common questions is if Pikachu's so great, then where the hell are all these Pikachus? And the question or the answer to that question is they're T-jolting in the blast zone and getting back aired. So I so just like when Sonix is taking ownership over his responsibility for the character and saying, I'm getting caught for this, I just don't know how to handle the situation. The same thing applies for a lot of players, for a lot of characters, where certain situations where those characters are currently getting ham-fisted, that character isn't necessarily weak there. It's a matter of the player base for that character has a certain set of exploitable habits, such as R.O.B's disadvantage. So,
No, true.
so
Or multiple jump characters. They tend to go for jumps, right? They don't have to, but they love it because they have it, right? So, yeah, it's definitely something just player, right? Player based and character main based. That's really good to know, but like also may not necessarily be indicative of like the character's flaws, which is something you should always take into account.
So I mostly just wanted to bring that up because we are talking about future possible meta, theoretical meta. That way,
Where
people
they
at home
don't skull
don't
bash.
hear us saying stuff like this and then think, "Well, I see Pikachu get edge guarded all the time." Yes, you probably do. So
Yeah, Pikachu. I think Pikachu's recovery is really, really good. That being said, there's also ways around. Like Sonic's 2 frame is really good against Pikachu's up B.
The big hurt box.
Yeah, the hurt box, and also if Pikachu tries to like recover high with quick attack, Sonic can just back air it. But it all really comes down to Pikachu players choosing bad options. Like if they were to pick the good options, or if they see me, for example, charging Force Smash and decide to go high instead, like it makes it harder for me. I can still hit them, but it's harder.
Yeah.
So in that same way, there's also certain matchups that I can see being like not I don't want to say losing. The thing about Sonic, and this is the reason why it's not as clear uh as him being like the best character in the game. It's the fact that he has a lot of even matchups. Like he doesn't just steamroll the whole cast.
Right, that's a good
He
point.
steamrolls. Yeah, he steamrolls some characters, but those are not like meta relevant characters, so it's not you don't see those matchups
Hmm.
that often. But the meta relevant characters he either slightly beats or goes even with. So that's why you might not see like Sonic being so oppressive in the current meta. But losing matchups, I don't think he has any clear losing matchup.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's like you probably just kind of separate matchups into things like, oh hey, like can I spin dash? Like how good is spin dash on this character? Okay, that'll
Mhm.
kind of give me like an idea of how much I should be using spin dash in the matchup, and then probably the more even matchups, it's like okay, spin dash isn't super strong on their shield, but or in general, but I'm still literally the fastest character in the game. So I'm just gonna just dash around or walk around and fight you like that, and you're probably just gonna like. I don't see a character beating Sonic in neutral in general.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of just like, oh, okay, well, it just kind of just depends on like the return or how strong spin dash is, and yeah, and then worst case you just kind of get an even if it's one like you hit one of those check marks or whatnot. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. And being good against spin dash, or like whether it's a player or a character thing, I think it's a double-edged sword because what happens is if your character is good against spin dash, you're gonna actively try to keep spin dash out, and you're gonna how do you do that? Throwing out hitboxes for the most part. And now what happens is spin dash is a very fast hitbox, a very fast burst option. So me changing the timing on spin dash will be enough to whiff punish you or hit you before you even get to throw out your attack that will beat spin dash. And then it becomes a whole mix up game. And you can kind of see it in the Sonic Roy matchup a lot, right? Because Roy players, sorry, Roy players will do a lot of like run up down tilts to try and just wall out spin dash or side B because side B does beat spin dash release. And then what Sonic does is just okay, you're side being all right. I'm gonna just hold spin dash for longer, and then I'm gonna whiff punish you, and then I'm gonna put you off stage, and then you're dead. Or if I know you're gonna down tilt, I can just see them running up towards me, start charging spin charge, and immediately release after I see the little
Right.
stab animation on down tilt, or I can hit him before down tilt even comes out. You know, like it becomes this whole mix up tree of okay, am I gonna spin dash like, and then if you're like okay, you know what, he's not gonna spin anymore. Let me just look out for other stuff that be what he's doing. Then you go back to spin dash, or if he's like still looking for spin dash, you can still mix up the timing on it or just do other stuff that's broken. Like run up jab. I think it's really really broken because it stops people from just dashing at you, or if they want to shield, you can jab one, react to them shielding, and then you say, okay, you know what, I'm a backdash, and
Yeah.
then the cycle continues. So I think I think that's another reason why Sonic is as strong as he is.
Yeah. Good points. Good points.
And it's worth noting that there are a lot of characters that have pretty much even matchups across the cast. That's where you get like your Jokers, your Sheiks, where the matchups they win tend to not be super strong, and the
Right.
matchups they lose tend to not be super weak.
Your Palus,
But-
right? Like
Yeah.
Yep.
But one of the differences that characters like Palu have is that Palutena, Sonic, etc., have ways of preventing things like trades, whereas characters like Sheik do not.
right.
So when Kazuya is coming at you with Electric Wing Godfist, Sonic can actually use, like, if the Sonic player is skilled enough at timing it, the Sonic player can actually compete with Electric Wing Godfist using like a spin dash hop to kind of invulnerable through and get. Now, to be fair, that interaction usually doesn't pan out well for Sonic, but it's more of just the principle of having these spots where the character that requires more interaction has certain points where they can't actually interact in neutral without taking extremely high risks against like one of these front-loaded characters like Kazuya.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the things that Sonic has over a lot of the other evenish characters, where he actually just has invulnerable combo starters, invulnerable KO moves. He has relatively low risk options like forward smashes for two framing, where he doesn't really get punished for it directly, even if he's wrong. Things like that.
Yeah. The return it's like low risk and the return's really high, right? So
True.
I mean that's always going to be strong. But that's going to be it for us. If you guys have any questions or comments about Sonic, just go ahead and leave them in the comments below. Let us know how you feel about the character. How strong do you think he is in the current meta and all that jazz. But till next time, class dismissed.